All right, so welcome to Silhouette Studios, the software. We're just going to go through a basic overview in this class. This is a basic overview of the Silhouette software program. And this is what it looks like on the Mac. And if you have a PC, a Windows PC, it will look similar. It looks pretty much identical and it works similarly too. So if you learn from one, you should be able to use it on the other. It shouldn't be a problem. You know, sometimes software for the Mac is way different than for the PC, but in the case of the Silhouette Studios, it's pretty much the same. This software is free and available to download off the Silhouette Studios website. And so you can download it. Just make sure you download the latest one, whether it's for your Mac or for Windows. It's only available for Mac or Windows. So unfortunately, you do need a Mac laptop or desktop or a Windows desktop or laptop. It is not available for tablets or Android or iPad, and it is not available for Chrome OS. So you do need a Mac or PC in order to download it and use it, the software. You also do need to use this software in order to cut things and send things and to actually use the Silhouette Cameo machine, the cutter machines that you have and buy. Now, if you're going to be using the one at the library, obviously you're not going to buy your own, although people do buy their own. You can use the one that we have in the library. And when you use the one that we have in the library, you can also use our software and our laptops that are in the library. Once the library opens up more fully, that is the caveat for making sure you get that caveat. Not at this current time, but in the future, you can always borrow and use while in-house the Silhouette Cameo machine we have at the library, as well as a laptop with the software. But a lot of people, back when we used to be open, they just borrowed the machine, but they brought their own laptop or they brought their own files because they had the software at home. You can use the software without the machine, but you do need to use the software in order to use the machine. It's one versus the other. Now, what we have on our library laptops and what most people have is the free version, the Silhouette Studio Basic. And so this is what this is. There are advanced versions that cost money, but that's not something you really need to do or to use in order to even use the Silhouette Cameo fully. So the free version is more than adequate. Okay, as you can see here, if you use the software, and you're familiar with software, it is similar to pretty much other drawing and painting programs you may have used in the past, similar types of icons. On the tab here, you have, if you've ever used any type of computer program, you have the shortcuts to new, open, save, print, undo, redo, cut, copy, paste, magnification, and move. So that's the those are some of the icons. Towards the left here, you have various tools and commands for manipulating and drawing on the image. So the selection tool, a lot of people colloquially just refer to it as the pointer. And then you have edit points tool. If you ever used vector software such as Illustrator or Inkscape or something like that and are used to editing points, you have that option. Then we have the line tool, just as it states. You can make lines, you can make curved lines. And you have like the rectangle circle tool. And as you can see here, it's rectangles or ovals. And you have a freehand tool. If you need to ever freehand make a design to cut something, you can see that there. And then text, probably the one command that people use the most for Silhouette because they want to put out text into your file. There we go. An eraser and cut tool if you're going to just cut part of your image out. So that is, oops, I need to do that. So that is a brief overview of the tools on the left. Anyone have any questions about that? Should be familiar to most of you. especially if you've ever used any type of drawing software before. So that's that. Now you'll notice that the color is red on here. It's not black or any other color. And that's because red signifies that once you send this to the Cameo machine, it's going to actually cut. Red is pretty much the shorthand in vector files for cutting, cut line. Black is just a mark, meaning that it will be printed, but the machine won't actually cut it. And blue doesn't matter for Silhouette software, but for other types of things, if you're going to use a laser or something like that, usually that's like a score mark. If you're not going to cut something straight through, but just score something, that's usually the blue color. Red color usually signifies that something is going to get cut. In this case, whether it's plastic, thin vinyl or paper, what it might be. And that's where. So if obviously not color, some people ask like, oh, can I change the color to something else or something like that? And obviously you're not going to make color designs on the Silhouette Studio software. It's just going to be silhouettes because the purpose of this program is not to draw or to edit photos or anything like that. It's to create a design that the Silhouette Cameo machine can then use to cut from a piece of paper or cardstock or vinyl. All right, everyone got that? Oh, gotta get something. So any questions about the left tools? All right, so that's the left tools. And towards the right, you have the side panels. These are all the icons for the side panels. And so it starts off with the page setup. And then there's other side panels, pick scan, fill. Now, even though you see colors here, it makes no difference in terms of whether or not something is, when you design, will be colored. Just want to emphasize that point. This is just more for your own visual cue or something like that. And a more expanded text tool, text side panel. Today we'll be focusing mainly on the page setup panel and then the trace panel, because that's what most people use. Most people, and especially in this basic form, they're going to use the page setup, trace, and possibly the text tools for the side panels. There are other things that you can do to manipulate the image. You can do like a lot of tiling, and so you don't have to do copy and paste. You can do a bunch of other tricks, and I'll leave that up to you to explore in the future. All right, so here's the page setup, and the page setup is actually quite important. Everyone can see that. Sometimes when I share the screen, page setup panel doesn't appear, but can everyone see the page setup panel? You could unmute and say yes, or do it on the chat.
I can.
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, so you see here, that's the page setup. Now, if you were working on Photoshop or a drawing program, usually you don't really pay attention much to the page setup until maybe the end or something like that, because you're more focused on the actual image itself, right? And if it's for like a web, if you're drawing something for a website, then it doesn't even matter. You just have to focus on the parameters of the website. But for Silhouette Studio and for the Cameo, the page setup actually is important because you want to get the material to be as close to the size that you're working on, because you're going to actually work not just like a virtual image, you're going to work with an actual physical material, be it cardstock or vinyl or whatever it may be, felt, whatever it may be. So you want the image, the page size, to be reflective of the size. So if you had an 8x8 piece of cardstock, that's what you want to put. 8x8. And as you can see, it changes. You saw now that our working space is now 8 by 8. And then if we were to actually send this to the machine, this would get cut off. So you'd have to adjust it. So the circle here and then this here, it would still go. It's not going to give you an error message. You just would it would actually start cutting on the mat. So you'd probably ruin the mat. So that's 8 by 8. If you were just doing an office sheet, 8.5 by 11, you could see that it's 8.5 by 11. And if you prefer working landscape versus portrait, you can do that. Change the orientation right here. If you're buy one of our sheets, our vinyl sheets are a full 12 by 12. So it's 12 by 12.
How much are the vinyl sheets?
Vinyl sheets, I believe, wow, it's been a while. Oh, it's a pandemic. I haven't it's a good question.
Don't worry about it.
It's about I think they're $1 for regular vinyl and $1.50 for the sticky vinyl. Or yes, I believe that it is, but don't quote me on that. I got to relook all that stuff. I used to know all this stuff on the top of my head, man. Yeah. So yeah, here's 12 by 12 sheet. And I'm gonna pretend my thing is 10 by 8. 10 by 8. 10 by 8 sheet. That's there. So you want to set your page. Now, obviously, sometimes maybe you were working on a piece of paper that has already been cut into a circle or some weird shape or a hexagon or whatever. And just get the closest. Obviously, it doesn't have to be exact. So, if you have an oval that's a weird shape that's about 10 inches across, maybe set it comfortably at 11 inches. So it's like that. So page size is important. Cutting mat, this we don't want you to change because all our cutting mats are 12 by 12. Now, if you had your own Cameo machine at home, you bought your own, and that you bought your own mats of various different sizes, then you could change it here if you had a 10 by 10 mat or whatever. But we have a 12 by 12 mat. All our mats are 12 by 12. 12 by 12 is the most common mat size because the Cameo can only fit 12 inches. And so 12 by 12, well, you can find 12 by 24 inch mats that go in lengthwise, but so everyone ends up just buying the 12 by 12 mats because why would you buy a 10 by 10 mat, right? Because you could just use the 12 by 12 mat for 10 by 10 cardstock. So it's kind of pointless. So just keep it at 12 by 12. Yeah, 12 by 24 is the next. And you could see that it's just lengthwise. It looks like that. So cutting mats typically are going to either just be 12 by 12 or 12 by 24. They do make smaller ones, but people don't buy them as I mean, maybe if they're on sale, you might buy some for yourself because I'm like, what's the point of a small cutting mat when, you could just do that. All right, so just keep that. But it is, so you just want to change the page setup. That's what, for that. 8.5, this is 8 by 10, 8.5 by 11, 8 by 8, 10 by 10, whatever it may be, 12 by 12. All right, any questions about page setup? Pretty straightforward, pretty standard. All right, so here are some images, and just like with any type of drawing program, you can see various things you can do. Once you do the image, you can resize it by touching one of these things. You can make it longer, touch by using this, do that, by doing that. You could even rotate it by hitting this one, so you can totally manipulate the image as you see fit. Even the freehand image that you drew yourself, you can manipulate that as well. Now, if you actually have, you use the tool to make a circle or a square, or I should say an oval or a rectangle, you can actually, it gives you the measurement here. So you can see what it would be. So like this was like 1.6 inches, 2.2, and then you could see here, it sees like that's like 1 and 0.5, 1. So it'll help you if you're cutting a piece of vinyl and you need some exact specification, like it needs to be exactly 1.5 inches wide and 1 inch tall, then when you design it, something to be cut, you can use these as guidelines. So that it. Same thing for like how long, so you can even do that for the text. If you need to edit your text, you could just double click on what you've done. And then you could always open up the text side menu. And select a different font and size. Impact here. Now, here's just a tip. If you are like deciding on, if you just want to like cut a bunch of text out of vinyl or cardstock, you just have to remember you want to pick a text that, unless you're going really big, this will be cut. The machine is cutting that. So if your font is tiny or it makes their circles very small, you're going to have a difficult time when it comes to actually removing your cardstock or your vinyl to like the, like this might be really difficult to remove the O and to carefully remove this little thing. And so that's something to keep in mind when you search for fonts. The more like fanciful the font is, the more difficult you will you will have to actually physically, unstick or physically stick or remove the actual material once you're done cutting it. It goes through the machine. Not saying that you shouldn't do it or you can't do it, but it's something that to keep in mind. So if you have fancy calligraphy, it will be much more painstaking to remove than like a simple block font. So, but it might be worth it for you. All right. Let me just make sure. All right, so so any questions so far? All right, so one thing that people want and to use Silhouette Studio software for and to the Cameo is not that they draw their own circles and squares. They want to be able to use an image that they have or that they found and convert it into and make it into something that they can then use to make a design that can be cut. So if that's the case, and that's usually the case, that's when we'd use this trace function. All right, so let's open up you can see me open up a thing. So we open it up and then I have these flowers set. You can see these different flowers. So the first thing I'm going to open up is this flower, this fanciful flower. Now it looks cool, right? And it's like cool design, but when we do the tracing, you can see that it might present some problems, like actual physical, practical problems when it actually goes through the machine and you try to actually use it as something to be pulled from the cardstock. So, so we'll see that. And also notice that it's black, right? Versus like this red. So if I were to save this file and send it to the Silhouette Cameo, only the circle will cut because it only cuts things that are red. Anything black, it won't be cut. So this is just nothing. It will not be cut, or it will not be made when it goes through the actual Cameo machine. If you send it to the printer, like if it's just printed on a piece of paper, then of course this will actually print out. This will print out too, and this will print out. So what we will do, we will try and, oops. I'll just make it a little smaller. Zoom. All right, we will now use the trace setup. So we select the trace area, and then we select the trace area, which is here for the flower. And then I'm just going to do the solid fill and then do the first trace. And now you can see that this got traced. This you could then, if you're done with it, you can just set it aside or even delete it. You can delete it if you want, or set it aside. It won't affect your actual cut. But now you can see this. Now, once you've traced it, you can still alter the image. So you can make it bigger or smaller after you trace it. If you forget to do that before you trace it, you can do it afterwards. You can see here, and so it's traced. Now, every time you see here, it's gonna be cut. It's gonna try cutting it on the machine. So something this small like that, it might not actually cut successful, like these tiny circles. This will completely be lost. It's not, it will trying, so this is not salvageable if it cuts through the cardstock or the vinyl. Now this will cut, this circle will cut, but remember you don't want to lose it, so you peel the circle and these will be cut. Each of these will individual petals will be its own piece. So you just have to remember that when you remove it and if you're going to glue it somewhere else. So for my opinion, in my take, I would not use this image. I would not use this as a design. It would just be too painstaking to actually do. I'm not saying that you can't. You could always experiment and you try it yourself, but it's not something that it would be worth the effort for me. Now, if there is some complex image that you absolutely love and you're willing to give it a try and just like painstakingly remove individual materials after the fact, then of course go ahead and do it. But it's not something I would do. And you should start practicing on cardstock and not some expensive glittery gold, you know, piece of like gold layered foil vinyl or something like that. I would never do it on that, especially as a beginner. So that's that. I deleted it. But there's other options. We just did this basic trace. But if we only wanted the outer edge, you choose trace. And it just tries to trace the outer edge. So it doesn't do the middle things. But this is all part of the outer edge. So that's why that looks like that. So I don't like this. Don't save. Now this is an image. This is I can work with because it's a lot simpler. It's more of a silhouette, which is why it's called Silhouette Studios and the Silhouette Cameo.
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just repeat, sorry if you've mentioned it, but where are you getting that flower image from? Just off of a Google image search?
Yeah, exactly. It's just, these are just random things I found. Yeah, exactly.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, clip art or random things. In case you were thinking of like, oh, you know what, I don't want to draw something. I want to find something, an art that I either have or I found that you could then use the trace bitmap to make into an image that the Silhouette machine can then use. So these are just random things that I found, but you can do You can do your own, of course. But just letting you guys know, if you actually do use things like random stuff that you find off the internet, like through your Google image search and stuff like that, technically you may not actually have permission to use those. So there's a little caveat. So especially if you're going to like be making designs that you're going to sell on Etsy or something like that, that's a definite, probably a no-no. But for the purposes of us, and you know, just I'm not gonna bust you guys if you were to do that, but just letting you know. All right, we'll use the trace area. So there you go. So this makes for a much cleaner trace, and it will be a lot easier to work with. But keep in mind, each of these pieces are going to be its own individual piece. So you got to save these and you got to glue them separately. And then that's why you use contact taping. Like this circle will be cut out. This other circle is going to, these little moon shapes are going to be cut out. And then this final outer edge will be cut out. And then you would have to assemble them yourself. That's what that cut. If you only want the outer edge, you have that option too. Just outer edge. Oh, hold on one second. Might have someone trying to come in. Nope. All right, as you can see here, now this only the outer edge. So this is just one solid piece and an actual true silhouette. And as with everything, you can always edit it after the fact if you forget to. All right. I've tried figuring out this trace and detach. I've used it many times. Let me undo that. But it just like, it doesn't actually give a, it just edits the actual image itself. It doesn't make an actual cuttable image or cuttable design. So as you can see here, these two things, this trace and detach, I just remove this from there. Neither this or this is actually going to cut. It will not be something that will, once you send it to the Cameo, it will not be a cuttable cuttable thing. All right. Any questions? Okay. So now we see at the top these tabs here: design, store, library, send. Pretty much we're going to be only using the design tab here, the blue, and the send tab. You don't really need to go through the store and library. Store, obviously, if you want to make an account with the Silhouette company and sign in and things, then you can visit the store to download designs and things that are ready-made for your Silhouette Cameo so that it can just be cut right away. So that's what the store is. Library is, that's where you store and find designs that you made and maybe other people have made and shared with you online on the cloud. So it's like a cloud storage type of a thing. You have to make an account. But for our purposes, we're going to stay in the design, and then we're going to stay in the send. Send is what you would use if you have your laptop or a desktop connected to an actual Silhouette Cameo machine. This is and then you press the send button, and then it will cut the design, your design from the machine that you have connected to your computer. Now, you don't have to connect or bring a laptop or connect the machine to the Silhouette Cameo. You can actually save this design. I'll save it here as a Silhouette Studio V3 file, Flower 2, and you save that. You can actually put that on a flash drive and bring it to the library or bring it to someone who has a Silhouette Cameo. And the Silhouette Cameo is able to read the flash drive and cut your design from that. So you don't actually need the Silhouette Studio software, or you don't actually need a laptop or a desktop. You just need the design saved onto a flash drive, and then you can bring the flash drive, and the flash drive can be inserted into the Cameo machine itself. So that's always an option. Or of course, you can connect your laptop directly to the Silhouette Cameo machine via USB and then hit the send button. I don't have the machine with me, so nothing is connected, so I can't actually hit send, but you can see that that's what is there. Now, here's an important point. If you have this Silhouette Cameo 1 or 2, you'd have to manually change the size of the razor blade, and this is where you get the information. So even if you don't have the Silhouette Cameo actual machine and you just have the software and you're using the library's machine, you would still go to the send section, the send blue tab, to find out the settings. So for instance, vinyl, matte vinyl, we know that the cut setting is 1. So we know that we need to change the razor setting to 1. And if we were to choose cardstock, look here, the razor setting is at 3, all right? And if we were to choose something else, vellum, razor setting is at 1, and felt would be a little bit more. Fabric, the razor setting is at 3. So it is important that even if you don't have the machine and you're using your library machine, that you go to the send tab to find out what the setting should be. So typically it's going to be 1 for vinyl and 3 for cardstock, and those are the 2 things that we sell at the library, and those are the 2 most common materials. But just in case you are trying to do fabric or something else, that's where you would do that. And let's say you're at the send and you forgot to do something in your design, you can always go back to the design tab and then finish your edit or edit what you've been working on. I know that it might sound simple, but some people have kind of worried. They hit the send tab and they think that it's done, and they're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to add something. No, it's perfectly cool. You can just go back to the design tab and add it there. All right, we're coming up on the end. It's Q&A, so we're pretty much done with the basics of Silhouette Studio. So do you guys have any questions?
Can you cut chipboard with this?
If it's thin enough. If it's too thick, past a certain amount of millimeters, I think 2 millimeters, it will not cut. I don't know if there's an actual setting for chipboard. Yeah, chipboard here. So, and then you can see the razor blade is at 5 for chipboard. But that's for thin chipboard. If you have a really thick piece of cardboard type of a deal, then it just won't work.
So more like a cereal box thickness might work on that.
Hit and miss. It's supposed to work, and they claim it works, but in practical, when we've tried it, it doesn't really work that good when it gets to be pretty thick like that. Now you can always maybe. Here's a cool thing. We just have the standard blades, the razor blades for our Cameo, but they do sell specialized blades. So you can get a fabric blade for fabric, or there could be like a sharp special blade for chipboards and things like that. So you are free to bring your own blade and use it on our Cameo machines. Just remember to take it back home. So that's always an option. We only have the standard blades, and the standard blades cut most things, and typically vinyl, cardstock, various other things. But if you are working like exclusively with fabrics, you probably will want to buy a fabric blade. Or if you are doing like chipboards, you probably want to buy a blade, like a sharp blade, specifically designed for thicker materials and chipboards and things like that. So that's always an option. Any other questions?
I have a question, and maybe I should not bring up the leading competitor, which is Cricut, but I was just wondering if like how a Silhouette compares to a Cricut, if you have any knowledge of Cricuts.
It's I don't really have that much knowledge. It's similar, and I don't care if you bring it up. We're not Cricut salesmen or anything like, or Silhouette salesmen. We just happen to have the Silhouette our library. Some libraries have the Cricut, and some libraries have both. Yeah, so I'm not super familiar with it. I can't say one is better than the other. I do hear that the Silhouette software is better, but that the Cricut is easier to use. But I haven't tested it for myself or done my own research. That's just what other people have told me. So I can't really tell you that. But if you find a good deal on a Cricut, might as well get that. If you find a good deal on a Silhouette Cameo, then you can get that instead. So it's not like a strong recommendation of one versus the other. So I will not give you, and I'm not a Silhouette salesman nor a Cricut salesman, just a librarian. And I know some libraries have both though. So any other questions?
I have a comment. I actually have a Cricut, and they seem very similar just from this little demonstration. I was just hoping to get some more ideas on how to design, so this is very helpful.
Yeah, it's in terms of like the cutting and things like that, it's there. Yeah, they're the two leading brands and stuff like that. I know initially Cricut, they marketed Cricut more for like consumers, and they marketed the Silhouette Cameo more for like more serious hobbyists and like small businesses. But these days they market it to both. They have like, professional Cricuts, and then the Cameo, they're like, oh, you can buy it for your home. So, but at first the market was different, but now they both market to both segments. So that's not even a differentiator anymore. But yeah, it's a good question, and it gets me curious. Maybe I'm gonna experiment and just see what the Cricut software is like, and if it's actually easier to use, which is what I hear, but I don't know if that's true. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, if there isn't, then if you want to be certified to use the Silhouette Cameo, and we make certification things for the sewing machine, the Cameo, the embroidery machine, things like that, back in the before times, before the pandemic. But we can still certify you since you took this class. So why not, you can send me an email. I will, where's the chat screen. Send me an email with your library card, your valid registered library card, and I'll put the certification note. So back when we open again, then you will be able to check out and use our Silhouette Cameo machines because you're certified. Now, if you forget or you don't do that, you can always try to get certified again, and then and do it that way. Otherwise, this is one of the benefits. You can feel free to email me and I will make that note and certify you. I mean, you don't have to if you just did this for fun, or you might have already got the certification, but there it is. Everyone got to see my email address there?
Yes, thank you.
Assume so. All right, yeah. So feel free to email me and you can get your certification. All right, any other final questions either on that or certification or anything else?
Thank you, Fred. I appreciate it. I learned a lot.
Sure, you're welcome. All right.